you talking about? Hold on, I've never seen you before. How do you know Demi?
Ebru, we have no time for all this. I know you love Demir, and he needs you more than ever before.
Love? I'm completely confused. How do you know he loves me?
These creatures serve Satan, and they built all these tunnels more than 2,000 years ago to protect themselves. I am on your side. And Ebru, Demir loves you so much.
What are you? Oh my god!
Turkish Resident Evil, with a dash of Devil May Cry and a spoonful of Eurojank. If that doesn't get you intrigued about Kabus 22, I don't know what will. It's one of the more oddball, obscure titles I've covered on the channel. A mid-2000s release from a small, scrappy group of developers from Turkey. There are several oddities and bizarre design choices within Kabus 22. There are quirks to how it handles its exploration and item progression that can hinder its flow, one that leads to frustration and tedium in backtracking. I'm not sure what to make of its story, but it's full of heart and charm that outweighs its shortcomings, some due to its goofy early survival horror feel, even though it was a mid-2000s release. While a bit rough around the edges, its action-heavy combat can be fun. There are stretches where they show a strong understanding of the classic Resident Evil formula. And then you have the Devil May Cry elements within Kabus 22. Yes, amongst the survival horror, we get a stretch of slicing and dicing foes. Now, it's nowhere close to the deep combat that Devil May Cry can offer, but there's still plenty of amusement, charm, and fun to be had with it. I love these kind of games where a small development team had big ambitions, but not a big budget, but they still took a swing at it, making the most of what they had available. Kabus 22 is a fascinating game from a bygone era, releasing in a bit of a transitional period. It's a bit of an indie game before indie games really came to fruition. A bit before bountiful resources became available for making games and distributing them digitally. And you had to go through far more major hurdles to make a game and reach an audience. Is it an overlooked gem that's a must-play of the genre? I wouldn't go that far, but if you love to delve into the weird, the overlooked, the obscure, Kabus 22 is worth checking out.
Demir, with time, you'll learn everything.
Alright, now tell me where I am, and why you wanted me to come here. Where did all those creatures come from?
Before we dive in, Kabus means nightmare in Turkish, so Nightmare 22. And yes, I did quadruple check, quintuple check the pronunciation of it. I know, I'm prone to mispronounce words here and there, but not this one. I did have to check several sources on it though, to be sure. As well, if you have an interest in checking out Kabus 22, it's abandonware, easy to find with a Google search, along with a fan patch to help getting it running in widescreen and on modern systems. With that, let's see what awaits us in Kabus 22. I'm going to let this intro cutscene play uninterrupted in all its glory. I'll give my thoughts afterward.
I'm aware of the new evil, and I know who they are. Adam and Eve, all they had to do was not eat that damned apple. Satan was trying to prove himself, and he did it. I have witnessed that the holy justice did not take place. The world is changing, and I can see it. Power, happiness, health. Human beings are being led by these passions. At the year 1995, a power started to offer these passions secretly. It was spreading fast. The number of happy people increased in the world, and others were looking for it and wanting it too. And at February 2000, the secrecy was needed no more. Everyone was exposed to this new belief. Yes, right, you have the power, happiness, and wealth more than enough, and you live for centuries, just like living in God's promised heaven. All you have to do is believe in it, and all you have to know is that this will last to your last breath. Many governors from all around the world started to convert to this new belief. On the year 2002, it declared war to the rest of the universe to rule them all. Most of the countries accepted this new order without conflict, and a few other remaining powers tried to fight back. But it didn't take long for them to fall one by one. The world came under control by a single power, which has split the world into 22 pieces. He sent his most loyal followers to this region to rule. All other powers in the universe were getting excited and eager to serve him. You can never win. You can never win.
No! This is where your belief ends.
Okay, show of hands. Do you have any idea what's going on in Kabus 22 after that intro? How about less of an idea? I rewatched this intro several times and still had a hard time wrapping my head around it with what they were going for, even after beating the game. These possible elements became lost in translation. Now I did find the old website for the game, translated it, and it does make things a bit more clear, but hold that thought for now. These opening lines did grab my attention. I'm aware of the new evil and I know who they are, Adam and Eve. All they had to do was not eat the damned apple. Gives a biblical feel to things here. Opening lines can do wonders in grabbing the audience's attention. Call me Ishmael. All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. I believe in America. America has made my fortune. Hi, babe. I have something for you. The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace. Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Or one I've covered on the channel, I remember the night of my 21st birthday. That was the first time I died. So props to Kabus 22 here for intriguing me with its opening line. Beyond the words, what about that voice here? It has fan mod energy to it.
I have witnessed that the holy justice did not take place.
The voice actor is recording late at night in a crappy mic, trying not to be too loud, trying hard not to wake their parents in a nearby room. That persists throughout the game with the other voice actors. Plenty of clipping as well, and a lack of pauses. Conversations don't flow in a natural way. But there's that classic early survival horror charm to it, although Kabus 22 came out in late 2006, so a bit past that point. That said, the developers were working with scraps to put the game together, but hold that thought for later. It's crystal clear they pitched down the actor's voice for these lines. Although fun fact, go watch like the first 2 or 3 videos on this channel, and you'll hear me with a pitched down voice. Why I did that, I have no clue. Self-conscious about my voice? Join the club. Who isn't when they hear their voice back? I do enjoy these background stills shown throughout this intro. The Earth has a corrupted heart to begin with helps set the stage. In but a few still images, we get a reasonable idea and feel of this world, its bleak nature, although it will feel a bit disjointed with what we play in game. It doesn't quite match the same feel. There's a lot of intrigue and mystery with these hooded figures. All the later stills here do become a bit more busy and hard to read, especially the ones of the war-torn landscapes. Still, even if not working with the largest of budgets, you can tell the team put plenty of care and work into them. That can go a long way in overcoming a lack of polish and production values. Heart will always triumph budget. As I brought up earlier, I did come across the website for Kabus 22 and ran it through a translator, one that did clarify the plot setup. In 1995, a figure pops out of seemingly nowhere and establishes a new religious belief. Their name, their age, their past? Unknown. By the year 2000, most of the world's elite convert to this belief and becomes this man's disciple. Most of the world falls in line and converts. But not all. This new religion launches a war on non-believers. By 2002, this unknown figure controls everything. The world becomes divided into 22 regions. 22 of his most loyal followers govern the 22 regions. Still, there are those who continue to resist this new belief and fight against it. Kabus 22 takes place in Istanbul, the 22nd region. Is there a reason the developers chose 22? Any special significance to that number? As this game is a Turkish creation, I looked there for connections, nothing significant about the number 22 in Turkey that I could find. The Turkish population is over 90% Muslim. Is there any significance to the number 22 in Islam? Nothing I could find there. When I think 22, I think of the term or novel Catch-22, or Catch-23 if you're well versed in Rickyisms.
The other thing is, it's a Catch-23 situation.
Of course, there's the song 22, one of the anthems of basic bitches, or those with refined tastes know the significance of the number 22 in the context of professional wrestling.
You want to play 21? I got 22.
Space 22, man.
22.
22! Oh, man!
You have to love this ending with someone stepping in to cut this pitched down voice off by shooting him. This feels like something a Leon Kennedy or Dante from Devil May Cry would do.
You can never win.
No! This is where your belief ends.
Don't worry, we will get to those Devil May Cry connections. They do come later. Following this intro, we have an FMV cutscene. Kabus will have some in-game cutscenes, but also FMV, ones that look similar to in-game but lower quality. It's here I came across an odd quirk with playing it on modern systems. For whatever reason, these FMV cutscenes would pop up in a new window, one labeled Active Movie Window. They would pop up in a tiny window, so I'd have to resize them. Tried fiddling around with suggested fixes on PC Gaming Wiki, but no dice. Seems to be some kind of old video codecs issue. Tried a few fixes, nothing, so I decided to roll with it. If you're like me, you may be familiar with Kabus 22 from an episode of Ross's Game Dungeon. He tends to mention these kind of bugs, but he didn't mention anything here. Oh, and on that note, Ross, good showing at the EU Parliament. Here's to hoping things go the way we want them to. I did have some further frustrations with this window pop-up for cutscenes. Subtitles wouldn't display. The sound mixing can be all over the place. In some cases, I had to watch playthroughs on YouTube to make sure I knew exactly what was being said. We'll be starting Kabus 22 off as Demir. He's the leader of the resistance in the 22nd region located in Istanbul. On the radio, he's talking to a woman named Ebru.
Hello?
You won't believe this, Demir. They are retreating. We defeated the Maddens.
Hold on. Calm down. Now explain to me from the beginning what's going on. Do you have the map?
Yes, the map is in front of me. They have nearly retreated from everywhere.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, now explain slowly. I'm listening.
Let me see. They have retreated from Kant entirely. Our troops at Çamlık and Sultana have 4 maiden groups surrounded. The maiden at Iskele are retreating as we speak. Is the situation in your area?
I don't believe it. How can this be? Do you start the operation?
No, the clash started to move outside from within the inner areas. The inner areas are clear now. The people are on the streets. It's like a carnival. You should see this.
Isn't this what we've been fighting for?
Are you coming?
20 minutes later, I'll be there.
I love this camera panning around here as Demir chooses his ride. On the way over, it seems like Ebru is in trouble, to the point where Demir's voice actor causes the mic to hit into the red.
Ebru, are you there? What's that noise? What's happening there? Anyone hear me? Someone answer me. Ebru!
Bringing up a Resident Evil comparison, Demir here may have more of a Chris Redfield appearance, but he does have a line more tuned to Leon Kennedy here.
Started this festival here.
Although don't expect too many wisecracks from Demir from here on in.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Kabus 22 has the common foundations of survival horror combat, but does have a few more action elements at play, filled with plenty of good old Eurojank. Well, is Eurojank the right term here? Pretty sure the game developers lived in Istanbul. Parts of the city fall under Europe, the eastern stretch falls under Asia. Well, it's Eurojank in spirit, although in a different way compared to something like Stalker. The action-heavy approach is on display on a couple of fronts with regard to health. Enemies will take several hits to kill us. There are plenty of health kits lying around. Your health is on display at all times in the top left corner. You have your usual when it comes to survival horror guns. A handgun, an assault rifle, a shotgun. Although with the more action-heavy focus, we get a few more options. An Uzi, a machine gun, mines and grenades. Ammo is bountiful throughout. There is no knife for switching to a melee weapon. We do have a melee strike, one that varies depending on the weapon equipped. For the pistol, it's a roundhouse kick. With other guns, our character will take the gun and swing it. The larger weapons like the machine gun will have a shorter swipe that takes less time. These strikes are a means of crowd control and less about its damage output. You will knock enemies back and stun them for a brief moment. These melee strikes offer generous invincibility frames, especially for swinging a gun. Enemies love to surround you on the regular in packs. It's not uncommon to deal with 3 to 5 enemies at one time. Using a melee strike can give you a bit of space and breathing room by knocking enemies back. Reposition as need be, at least in theory. Resident Evil 4, this is not when it comes to crowd control. As well, there is no quick turn option. Depending on enemy position, you may only push back one instead of all. It can be easy for the timing of the animation to fall in a way where you end up in a stun, where one enemy hits you and then the other. They have you cornered and it's not going to be easy to get out. Quick way to lose plenty of health and medkits to stay alive. While I didn't find Kabus 22 a huge challenge on its normal mode, there were stretches that took a few tries as a result, trying to run by only to find myself on the receiving end of stunlock. There is one viable strategy that can work for crowd control, and that's through mines and grenades, although they have their quirks in how they operate. I found the mines to be better option in groups. Demir seemed to throw the grenades too far if I stunned an enemy after a melee strike. Too long to go off. Mines handled in a similar way. He will throw them forward, not place them where he stands. I did find a melee strike followed up with a mine toss would do a decent job of turning the tide. A melee strike would be enough to knock them back into the range of a mine, which would set off after a short period of time. Of course, you have to be aware of the damage that you'll take from it. Our combat options need quality adversaries to create a satisfying system. To an extent, Kabus 22 does deliver on the enemy front. They put their best foot forward with the first enemy we come across, one that stands out from the rest of the enemies we fight. You could tell where most of the developers' focus went with regard to their behavior. They're one of the more interesting enemies I've come across in the survival horror title. What makes these enemies stand out is how they warp around, disappear, and reappear elsewhere. They could reappear right in front of you. If you try to run through an area, they may warp right in front of you, blocking your path. They might get a swipe in as well. There's one early stretch where I encountered a group of them where I thought there must be at least half a dozen as I sprinted through. Once I fought them, I realized no, that's a mere illusion. It looks like there's more of them, but there are only 3. Most encounters with them will be in groups of 3. They can still be tricky to deal with in how they surround you. Be vigilant or you may end up in a stun-lock circle, or find yourself cornered next to a wall. For running by, I found juking around instead of a straight line seemed to work best, so kudos to the game for delivering a bit on this standout foe. You will know when there are enemies present through the game's music. This track is very in your face, emphasizing the action-heavy focus. Kabus 22 delivers on the music front, along with the sound design. There's another enemy type that shows up early on and has a rare appearance that I wanted nothing to do with. It seems like I couldn't. No shot seemed to land on it. Music and sound design when they're present screams stay away. It's a shame that most later enemies aren't quite up to snuff as these earlier ones. You'll have these basic flies that shoot projectiles, or large hulking enemies that make a beeline for you and try to swipe you. At this point, the game loves to throw up to 5 of these of you at one time. Again, be vigilant if running by, for it's oh so easy to fall into that stunlock pattern. That said, I do understand why the later game shifts to more standard fodder when it comes to enemies. There is a shift to its combat, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. How does Kabus 22 handle as a survival horror when it comes to exploration and puzzles? A bit of a mixed bag. The first stretch on the streets of Istanbul is a classic survival horror layout, although a bit on the light side. There are a couple of shortcuts we can unlock to loop around, but it did feel like the game needed at least one more during this stretch. This is one of the key areas where Kabus 22 falters. It's backtracking and clarity of what to do next. The game likes to put one item in one spot that requires usage on the opposite side of the map, which even with shortcuts can be tedious for backtracking. It's always tough to find that right balance. Resident Evil has always been the king when it comes to this, but in Kabus 22, it could feel like padding at points. What adds to the frustration is a lack of clarity with locked doors. There are plenty. The thing is, the game does not distinguish between locked doors and doors that require a key to open. Several doors that don't open at all. They appear the same on the map when you try to open them. Most keys we find won't give any further information in their description. Most will only say, a key. There would be some doors that stood out due to their size. Can a key open these ones? The answer tended to be no. Do the fixed camera angles change to put emphasis on a door? They will do that for items, but not for doors. I had several moments throughout Kabus 22 where I had to think, wait, where should I be going next? Looking through my footage, there were certain doors where Demir would speak saying it's locked. Were these the doors that needed a key? Some did, but I'm not sure if all of them did. Shouldn't it come as a shock how Kabus 22 can become a frustrating ordeal as a result, trying door by door to see which key works on it. Having a different distinction on the map would have done wonders, or do the old Silent Hill trick of telling us the door has a broken lock. There's an amusing if frustrating stretch during the game's beginning where we are on a key hunt. Find this key to unlock this door, to find another key to use on this music box. Inside the music box is part half of another key we need to progress. Puzzles are decent. There are a few spread throughout Kabus 22. Ones that give you a bit of a pause to solve, but not too long to grind things to a halt. But not too easy where we enter the realm of brain-dead puzzle as a palate cleanser. Although I will cover some of the odder ones later. With that, let's go through the major beats of Kabus 22. There's plenty packed in considering its runtime, one that's in line with your typical survival horror affair. During this first stretch as Demir, we will come across another survivor, one in search of his daughter.
Hey, are you okay? Talk to me. You have no reason to be afraid of me. Why did you run away? What happened here?
My life, all my life I've been running away. Away from war, away from freedom, and from happiness.
You don't look good. Can you remember what's happening here?
The only thing I remember is to meet my daughter here soon.
Like, I can look around. You wait here. How would I recognize her?
All I have left is one picture of her.
Wait here, don't move.
In the nearby cemetery, we will find her buried 6 feet under. Something he already knew. So why did this man do that?
But your daughter is dead.
I know.
What do you mean you know? Why didn't you tell me this? Hey! Why did you do this to me?
A great question, Demir. There's another survivor in town, but he's not going to let us in.
Who's there? Hurry up and open the door. I have to come in.
Go away.
Come on, open the door.
I can't. It's too dangerous.
I'm searching for a girl.
There's no one else here except me. Go away.
Demir finds himself whisked away as the game switches us to Ebru, the woman he talked to during the game's intro.
So close. I must get out of here right away.
Ebru has fewer options for combat, only one gun. This stretch as Ebru does have some tedious backtracking, where to progress in one area, we need to find an item elsewhere, one that seems to reside as far away as possible. Again, where another shortcut or two during the stretch would have done wonders. That said, we don't play as Ebru for long before we switch back to Demir, who finds himself in the doctor's office. This is the man from before who refused to open the door.
This is your lucky day, soldier.
Where am I?
You are where you're supposed to be, in a hospital.
You. You're the one who wouldn't open the door for me. How did I get here? Something attacked me.
What are the chances of you trusting a voice behind a door when those dirty bastards are everywhere, soldier? But you getting injured gave me a chance to save someone. That's a doctor's obligation.
Anyway, I must leave. I have to save someone.
Ebru?
Yes, but how? Have you seen her?
No, I have not seen her, but you was calling out her name while you was unconscious. I'd say you should rest a bit more.
Thank you for everything, but I must go now.
Okay, it's up to you. This might be useful to you, and good luck.
Well, thanks for the helping hand, Doc. Oh. Well, there's that note he's been scribbling on, one that talks of his inner torment. Kabus 22 does have several notes throughout to piece together the story. Classic survival horror staple. We will find newspaper articles on the rise of this religious order. I'll cover these closer to the end of the video. My first thought after switching back was to head to those grates where a monster nabbed Ebru. Think so, but no. In the area where we started as Ebru, there was a nearby locked door, one with a key on the other door handle. There's an item we find in Demir's stretch that we could use to remove the key. But first we need to place a sheet of paper underneath the door to grab the fallen key. Funny how the game doesn't let us use any of the many notes we've collected so far. We have to find a separate sheet of paper for this one task. Ah, survival horror logic. Hold on. I've seen this puzzle before. This is right out of Alone in the Dark too. Guess someone on the team was a fan of the game. There's a boat we saw earlier in Ebru's stretch, one that required fuel. We grabbed some during this stretch as Demir. At which point, Kabus 22 takes an interesting turn. I'm sure you've been wondering when the Devil May Cry elements arrive. Well, here we go, at least on the story front.
Who the hell are you?
I'm Enzo.
Okay, maybe you can tell me where all these creatures come from.
See you at the Maiden Tower, Demir.
Maiden Tower? What are you talking about? Hey, where are you? Come back here. Where did he go? What's happening here?
Ebru's fine. Don't worry.
Ebru?
This is Inzar. I like to refer to him as not Dante. Could they be any more on the nose here with regard to his appearance? Well, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, is it not? With that, we head across to the Maiden's Tower, a landmark in Istanbul. First built in around 408 BC. It's been destroyed or burnt down a couple of times since then. There's a note within the tower that does explain a possible origin of the tower's name. The king has a troubled dream witnessing the death of his daughter from a snakebite. Troubled by his vision, he orders the construction of a tower in the middle of the sea to hold his daughter. Desiring grapes, the daughters brought some from the king's bountiful vineyard. Unbeknownst to them, a snake resides in the basket full of grapes. Reaching for a grape, a snake bites the daughter, who dies. The Wikipedia article for Maiden's Tower makes mention of its appearance in various works of pop culture. Someone should edit the entry to include its appearance in Kabus 22 here. I have to know, are we leaving Ebru behind? Seems like it. Although Inzar did say she was safe. You could feel more of the Devil May Cry influence before hitting inside when you reach Maiden's Tower. Not due to the turret section, mind you. It's music that plays during the stretch. The composer did a great job of emulating that Devil May Cry feel. We will get more to that soon enough. Well, during this turret section, I thought my game acted up. No button on my controller seemed to exit the turret. Turns out it was the escape key on my keyboard that did the trick. The inside of the Maiden's Tower takes a more atmospheric turn. I felt similar vibes to the clock tower from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. There's something fascinating about this music track and how it adds to the mood. Glitchy and all over the place, it's a bit hard to get a read on. Reminded me of some of the more out there ambient tracks from someone like Aphex Twin. That said, this stretch is quite tame on the enemy front. Only those large flying bugs who are a bit uninspired. Best to save your ammo and run past them. I did like this puzzle at the top of the tower. With the 4 buttons, the dot will move a certain amount of spaces in a certain direction. We need to get it to this blinking green light. It's one of those puzzles that could take you several minutes or several seconds depending on your luck. I got lucky here and solved it on the second try. Before we descend to what is beneath the Maiden Tower, Inzar, or non-Dante, shows up again. He gives a bit more insight into the stakes and what is going on here. There's a prophecy on hand in this 20-second region.
Yes, I'm here. Now tell me where Ebru is.
She is okay and safe.
Which side are you on? And am I safe?
Emir, with time, you will learn everything.
Alright, now tell me where I am and why you wanted me to come here. Where did all those creatures come from?
You are where you are meant to be. This is your path to wake up the foolish people. This is the path to the beginning or the end. I know it's not going to be easy, because Satan is also on his side from now on.
Just look around. I'm all alone. What can I do?
You will succeed, just like the ones before you managed to succeed. This is your fate.
Let's get real. I've seen you. You are capable of much more than what I can do. Will you help me?
This is not the first time, and it won't be the last. The 22nd region is important to the new order, as is to humans. As the prophecy says, the liberation will start from the 22nd region, because the Daily Stone is here, and is waiting for the chosen one. The stone is indestructible, and guarded very well, because they know the stone is the key to the door that will lead to their destruction.
I said, will you help me?
I just carry out my orders.
Where'd you go, Inzar? The cutscene didn't show him leaving. You'd think he'd be standing there after this conversation, but no. This underground stretch below the Maiden's Tower is another mixed bag. On one hand, the atmosphere is great. The music does some heavy lifting. There's rooms containing key items we need to progress. The music in these rooms wouldn't be out of place in Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. We need to collect several stone tablets to place on several pillars to open up a nearby door. And here's where Kabus 22 hits another snag with its pacing. At least in the earlier stretches, there were shortcuts to loop around. Not here. You go down one hall, fight or flight from foes, collect the tablets, and head back the way you came. There are some halls where at the end they may require an item to progress. So depending on what order you decide to explore first, you may be doing more backtracking than need be. Where it dives well into the realm of tedium. There was one door tucked away at the end of a hall that was locked. One that takes several rooms to go through. Ugh, am I going to have to find a key elsewhere, then come back all the way out here? Thankfully, this is not the case. You don't have to open this door, at least as Demir. The game adds new enemy types during this stretch. Hulking beasts that are a bit on the uninspired side. They make a beeline for you and swing away. Although we can find an Uzi and a machine gun down here to speed things up. Their deaths also make use of the classic Howie scream. Once we collect all the tablets, we open up a passage to this imposing door. Time for another cutscene. A couple of formidable foes will show up. One who wouldn't look out of place in Mortal Kombat. Tekken for the other.
So, this is Demir. Is my end in your hands, or do I have your end in my hands? Send him away. You, stay here, and be ready to welcome him.
Time for another character switch. Abru? No. It's Inzar's time to shine. Oh, hell yeah. Remember when we first saw Inzar, how he sliced and diced foes like mincemeat? Now it's our turn at the wheel. The Devil May Cry influences come to the forefront of Kabus 22. Now to note, don't expect to have gameplay like the cutscene that we saw earlier. Classic discrepancy between cutscene and gameplay. While it's nowhere near the complexity and deep nature of the Devil May Cry series, there's still enjoyment to be had here. This is where most of the Eurojank of Kabus 22 emerges. You have your basic 3/ combo strike. Fiddling around with button presses, I did discover another where Inzar would end it with spinning blades in a circular motion. Some of these enemies can be a bit bullet spongy to Inzar's strikes, but we have other tools at our fingertips. Inzar has an arsenal of alternate attacks to choose from. You have to go to the menu to select. You cannot switch in real time. I have to know how they put in the effort to make a unique menu for Inzar. One with plenty of character. Something lacking in the modern UI landscape, gaming or otherwise. These alternate attacks will use up varying amounts of mana. Most notable is the highest cost, which grabs enemies in the vicinity and slams them into the ground. The one I found most usage out of was the juggle attack. This alternate attack tosses one enemy up in the air while slowing down time. You need far fewer strikes to take down a juggled enemy. You'll restore your mana through hitting and killing enemies. To heal your health, you can hold down one button to restore it. It's not a case of challenging the player, giving them a bit of a power trip. I do love this backflip dodge you could do here, and I'm saying dodge in quotation marks. Does it serve much of a purpose? No. By the time you flip backward, it's likely an enemy has already hit you, but it sure is stylish, to say the least. Don't go into these sections expecting things like animation, jump, or slash canceling like you could do in Devil May Cry. It's janky around all edges. To go from survival horror gameplay to this in the same game? It is a bit of a jolt. It's a vast understatement on that front. Although to note, the original Devil May Cry did start as Resident Evil 4 before it became its own thing. Still, gotta hand it to the developers here. They put in the work. There is some fun and amusement out of these sections and had me chuckling. Oh, and that music? Fantastic job in emulating that Devil May Cry feel. Before we can enter the area where Demir found himself captured, we have to clear out the whole underground of enemies first. Why? Why not? So it's another jaunt through this underground area. That said, it didn't have me rolling my eyes. Beyond turning enemies into mincemeat in short order, Inzar moves at a far faster speed. Remember the stretch in Demir's section where I mentioned a locked door in a far corner? Inzar can enter. There's a ladder leading up that says Abreu is safe when we try to use it. Is that where she's hiding? Strange how she ended up here, but let's roll with it. With all enemies vanquished, we can now head to where we last saw Demir. We see that Inzar here has a bit of a background with the Tekken guy reject here.
So you have been sent? No, I have been chosen. I'm surprised they chose you. I can feel you wished to never meet me. Are you scared? I was able to come this far. This does not mean you need to fight with me.
Boss time. More or less a 2D boss, nothing too hard. You can step back or flip back and heal up when timing permits. Afterwards, Inzar heads back to that faraway corner to rescue Abreu. This scene is the one I played at the video's beginning. Inzar exits stage right or vanishes as we return to playing as Abreu.
And Abreu, Demir loves you so much.
What are you? Oh my god!
Switching back to her, we have a long excursion back to where we had that boss fight. Abreu doesn't have the demonic speed of Inzar. Does anything happen between where we began and that chamber? No, only a long run back. Like a walking simulator stretch before those came into prominence, but without the walking simulator elements. Why couldn't Abreu show up in this chamber? Padding? At least throw some enemies along the way if you're going to do that. Moving on, we end up in a new area with another fantastic music track. One that eases some of the frustrations I had with this bit. A short stretch, but there's this door where we have to rotate around these color crystals. There is a pillar that has a pattern to the crystals, at least some of them, and to be honest, I couldn't figure out the logic behind this one and what it wanted me to do. Must have missed something here. We end up in a new location where there's a couple of searchlights moving about. Fall under the light and get shot several times by a machine gun. A bit annoying with how they stun and move you around. It's hard to get any kind of rhyme or reason to these searchlights' movements. Beyond this lies a hall with a few rooms. This is quite the fixed camera shot this one room has going on. How it's spinning, how it's from above, very memorable. Do make note of this room for later. We will need to come back to it, although at a bit of an odd time. At the end of the hall is Demir and the two reunite. Somewhat reminds me of Jill or Chris rescuing the other at the end of the first Resident Evil. Although things seem more than platonic here between Demir and Abreu.
Abreu, is that you? How did you get here? I looked everywhere for you. Where were you?
Leave me, I don't know. I remember that I fell and then someone woke me up and told me that you were in danger. The man was amazing, he suddenly vanished.
Did you see him?
Yes.
What else did he say?
And he mentioned about opening some door.
First the maiden tower, then the strange tunnels, and now a door?
Emir, do you think that he's a human being?
I don't know. We must get out of here now.
There are armed creatures outside. What should we do now?
We're going to run towards the door. Please be very careful.
You too.
But alas, it is not to be, whatever they had in mind. Here we have a classic case of cutscene incompetence, where there's a discrepancy between the health bar in gameplay versus cutscene. Well, that was a quick reunion. Rest in peace, Abreu. May your death not be in vain. Using the item Demir found back in the chamber, we take an elevator down to the game's final stretch. This unsettling underground mansion. You can tell right away some crazy shit does go down here. And this is where Kabus 22 shows its strongest hand. You can feel the influence of the Spencer mansion from the first Resident Evil on full display. The layout is much better than the earlier underground section or the stretch in Istanbul. It's less spread out, there's plenty to explore. It loops around in a more conventional survival horror level design. Funny how Kabus 22 leaves its best, most focused stretch for last. It It's also common for survival horror titles to play their strongest hand first. Not here. It does a great job of replicating that Resident Evil feel, both from the layout to the puzzles to item progression, well, to an extent with item progression to unlocking the way forward. As I brought up several times, Kabus 22 does have issues with item progression and placement. Issues that I don't see pop up too often in survival horror games. Resident Evil has always been the gold standard for this. Item placement that allows for satisfying progression along the critical path. You might have to loop back, but nothing too far. In this end stretch, depending on which direction you go first, you may find yourself needing to do some extra long backtracking. One door or key item needs something else from the other side of the mansion. You may luck out like I did in the path I chose to explore. Else you may be taking a trip from one end to the other. There is a fair amount of legwork required to make our way through the mansion. In its basement, we will find 4 knives. We need to find 4 hearts, stab each with a knife, and stab the knife into 4 paintings throughout the mansion. For each spot that we find a heart, we have to fight a tough enemy that looks like something crossed between Silent Hill and Dead Space. This one room here would look out of place in Silent Hill 3. When we stab these paintings with a knife and a heart, a message appears. We need to write down these messages with a notebook we find in the mansion. Again, depending on what direction you went first, you might have to be doing some backtracking once you find it. With the 4 messages, you toss the notes into the pillar of energy to unlock the way forward in the basement. Alright, fair enough. I go through the mansion, I have 4 knives, I find 3 hearts. Uh-oh. Where's the last one? I'm pretty sure I checked every room. The hearts are near impossible to miss. There are keys to unlock other rooms, but I seem to have found them all. I do a thorough look once again around the mansion. Is there some secret passage I'm missing? Did I miss an item lying around? Doesn't appear to be. I decide to bite the bullet and look through a playthrough. No, there's 3 hearts here, so where's the other? I rewind the playthrough and find the answer. Remember that one room earlier during Abru's stretch? The one a few down where we rescued Demir? The top-down view with the spinning camera? Well, look there on the wall, there's a heart. I didn't even notice it during that stretch as Abru. When we switched back to Demir after Abru's death, there didn't feel like any reason to revisit that area. Didn't cross my mind at all. What a weird spot to place this heart. Why here and not the mansion? Imagine, for example, the Brookhaven Hospital section of Silent Hill 2. You require a handful of items to unlock a door. All items save for one are in the hospital. The last item is in the streets of Silent Hill for no real rhyme or reason. And the game doesn't tell you. That's what feels like what happened here in Kabus 22. Which is too bad because it puts a bit of a blip on by far the game's best stretch. Okay, well, one more complaint. This one room with a chair. My first thought, we would be able to sit on it like the one chair in Resident Evil 4, but you cannot. Once we do round everything up, Inzar will re-emerge to have a chat with Demir. We get the "we're not so different you and I" talk, although Inzar is on our side.
You let Abru die.
I never wanted it to happen like that. I understand how you feel, but you must calm down now.
Abru is dead and you want me to calm down? You could have helped her. You don't understand anything.
I wish I could have helped. I wish they helped me 1,000 years ago. When I was just like you. I understand what you're going through now, and you too will understand me when the time is right.
You and I will never have anything in common.
Don't be so sure, Demir. I fought just like you in the past. Now, I just do what I am told.
You mean you was a human too? And how? How are you here?
Now, I want you to wait here.
We then have an awkward cut to Inzar talking with the Tekken reject. He seemed to have a bit of a long past. Shakespearean dialogue this is not, as they talk about good and evil. The constant rotation of the camera around them gave me a decent chuckle.
Good and evil.
Who is the good one? You? Don't be so sure about that.
I never change sides. If I was good before, I'm still good now. If I was evil.
If you could see what I could see now, then you would now be on the same side as me.
What did you see? What made you change sides? You was one of our wisest men. How could you go so wrong?
My greatness lies in the truth I hold.
Are you denying what you taught me?
Yes. What I taught you was what someone else taught me. It now means nothing to me.
Why?
Because it was all a small part of the truth. I, and many like me, always wondered what the rest of the truth is. But I risked everything to find the truth, even to be cursed. This is why you are here now, because you fear the truth. But there is no fear on my side, no limit, before our aims were already determined by others. I now determine my own aims. I've seen a lot more than you know, much more. You should have been on our side. No. You also take on. You too serve for someone else's aims. You ran away from the rules. Those rules was our protection. Are you trying to lecture me? I'm trying to make you remember what you have forgotten. Let us see you are not so wise as you were before. You've become a complete slave to him. Fighting with you will cause me a lot of shame. You can't defeat me with what I taught you. You will beg me, while you are dying, to be on the side that you are now ashamed of.
Playing once again as Inzar, we now have a one-on-one fight with his Tekken reject rival. One with a similar skill set and moves to Inzar. It's no alright fight, janky to put it lightly. Don't go in expecting to qualify these fights with Virgil in Devil May Cry 3 or the fights with Sean in Bayonetta. Some of the greatest boss fights in gaming. Kabus 22 doesn't quite get to that level, but they did try with this combat system. And that's it for Inzar. He says after he'll be watching over us. That's his last appearance. We are at the game's end, switching back to Demir. A couple of rooms down is the Mortal Kombat reject that we saw earlier during Demir's kidnapping. This will be our final challenge.
Welcome, Demir. I've heard a lot about you.
Then you should also know that you are going to lose.
Yes, I heard that too. This is why I chose the 22nd zone. As prophecy says, our fall starts at the 22nd zone. But then again, it's just a prophecy.
A prophecy which is about to become a reality.
I let you come this far to show you that prophecy means nothing. And I want to kill you. In fact, your death means nothing to me. But it means a lot for him. Your death will make me rise.
Nothing has meaning for him.
You fools can't understand him. He is beyond your miserable world. There's no power behind his existence. He needs no one.
His end is near too.
You are very brave, but this is of no importance and means nothing.
What has meaning and importance? Your fake happy life?
No! We need to go through a few waves of summoned enemies. Hope you did a reasonable job in keeping your ammo and health items in check. The game is bountiful with them, but you still have to be a bit careful. Don't throw your ammo everywhere at every single enemy. And in a bit of a heinous act, our opponent resurrects Abreu and uses her as a shield. We need to move from side to side to get our attacks in while dodging his projectiles. At some point during this fight, I did try to use the Gale Stone we found earlier. Felt like one of those endgame moments where you use a key item to achieve victory. But nothing. Well, at least not yet. I'm a bit ahead of the game here. Once Abreu disappears, a text box will tell us to use the Gale Stone. And with that, we're done. Oh, that's it? I guess so. Well, there is still one more cutscene. I did miss it with the windows popping up as it's so brief, but that hooded figure from the intro, he appears for a moment. It looks like we're only getting started. Well, it's crystal clear they ran out of time and budget. We do get a long text scroll to fill in future events. That Mortal Kombat guy we fought was Tagut. That hooded figure who appears for a brief glimpse was Dairy. The true power behind everything? Is he the devil or a servant of Satan? Satan's name comes up a few times in notes and talks with Inzar, but I'm not sure. From what I understand, Tagut here was one of Dairy's 22 most disciplined disciples. He was watching over the 22nd district of Istanbul. There was a prophecy that a hero would arise from the 22nd region to fight back against Dairy. The death of Tagut marks a shift in the tide of the war. Many of Dairy's followers fell into despair. Many decided not to carry on. Demir becomes a hero and a symbol of hope. People begin to push back on Dairy across the world. But the war is far from over. Demir sends secret messages to Resistance headquarters around the world. What was written is unknown, only that Inzar was the one to deliver them. So are there now 21 regions? Will there be a sequel but it's now called Kabus 21 or Kabus 22-2? No, that never did happen. I still can't make much of the plot of Kabus 22. Now, there are notes scattered about. A note from 1997 states that European scientists were testing on human cloning. Does this come up at all elsewhere? Not really. The late 90s saw a rapid rise with many of the world's elite joining this new religious order. The cult makes itself public in the year 2000 and would declare war on non-believers not long after. Again, as I brought up during the intro, I had a hard time following the game's intro and story, and even now after everything, I still feel the same. But there are a couple of other things to note post-credits, like a survival horror staple, the ranking system. A grade of BB followed by 5 stars. Is that good? I'm not sure, but I'll take it. And we end off with a nice shot of Demir and Abreu together, a life they never got to live. Although shouldn't it say the end or thanks for playing? Game over makes it sound like I got a bad ending. But this is the only ending. And that ends Kabus 22. As mentioned, the plot can be a bit all over the place and murky, but there's another interesting element of Kabus that I've alluded to throughout, that being its creation. Thanks to the channel Lorem Ipsum, which features one of the game's developers, I was able to piece things together. To an extent. It's all in Turkish, so I had to grab transcriptions of the video's audio and translate that to English. It's not perfect when reading through, but I think I got the gist of it, for the most part. On the note of that YouTube channel name, Lorem Ipsum, props to grabbing that name for your channel. Surprised it wasn't taken earlier, considering the channel's creation date of 2019. Then again, it surprised me Boulder Punch was free when I came up with names. Side note, but fun fact, possible channel names I had besides Boulder Punch: Train Suplex or This Guy Are Sick, nod to the Final Fantasy series, for nod to Metal Gear, 61 Scissors, and Managed to Avoid Drowning were names I had in mind. Considering the direction I took the channel, good thing I went with Boulder Punch. About half a dozen individuals worked on Kabus 22 in the early 2000s. A mixture of recent university grads or those still in university. They go to each other's houses and poke away at the game. A group of friends who love games. Resources were next to non-existent. No universities at the time in Turkey offered courses in game development. At the time, there's no real game development scene in Turkey. From what I gathered, Kabus 22 was the first Turkish video game with an international release. They had slow computers with slow internet with little points of reference. They used the game engine 3D Game Studio, a bit of a costly purchase for a crew of humble developers, an engine that was in the low budget range. Tools that were far less user-friendly than what you see today. They were able to get modest funding from a doctor to get themselves an office and buy some time. Everyone wore multiple hats in the development of Kabus 22. Development time that would take around 3.5 years. Beyond funding, one of the major pain points in development was enemy pathfinding. I have to wonder how much the pathfinding troubles arose from the early game monsters that warped around. Upon completion, they had other hurdles to overcome. That being distribution. They needed to get a stamp of approval from the Ministry of Culture. But due to legislation at the time, there was nothing offered for video games on that front. But they could get a stamp of approval if they presented the game as a film. So that's what they did. They changed titles, one became a member of the Film Producers Association. They also had to deal with age rating. Someone asked the team if Kabus 22 had blood in the game, which it does, resulting in an instant 18+ rating in Turkey. It's fascinating to look at this time frame of Kabus 22's development and release and compare it to today. Like all the tools that are available for developers on the game engine front. Ones that use revenue sharing models and countless documentation and resources. Something not quite there in the early 2000s, especially in Turkey. Along with that, the distribution of games. Steam was still in its infancy at the time. Digital distribution was not quite what it is today. 2006 saw 70 games released on Steam, almost doubling that in 2007 with 135. 2025 saw 21,509 games released on Steam. Kabus 22 was a few years before the Indian gaming boom of the late 2000s and the early 2010s, where digital distribution knocked down countless walls to getting a game out. On the note of Steam, why is Kabus 22 not on Steam? The team would have to go through some technical hurdles to get it up and running there. They found it would be worth the time, the effort, the money, and outcome in doing so. But in a kind gesture, they did release the game for free. One of the videos talking about behind the scenes of Kabus 22 includes a Google Drive file for the game. And despite its odd nature, it is a great game that's worth being aware of. How could you not be intrigued by a Turkish Resident Evil clone with the helping of Devil May Cry and Eurojank? A title from a bygone era during a transitional phase in the industry and the genre of survival horror. One of the last old-school fixed-camera survival horror titles before the indies brought them back again years later. A time right before indie development started to take off, courtesy of game engines and Steam leveling the playing field for the little guy. Here we have a game from a country with next to no game development scene, with the development team making it up as they went along. but you can see the love they had for games like Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. While Kabus 22 has its oddities and quirks, you have to respect how much they punched above their weight class. That heart and charm helps to offset the game's several shortcomings. I wouldn't call it a must-play, but if you like to dig through oddball, obscure survival horror titles, Kabus 22 is right up there. Thanks for watching. Curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you've seen Ross's Game Dungeon episode on Kabus 22, I know Eurothug 4000 covered the game as well. For any Turkish fans in my audience, I'm sure some of you must be out there. Curious to hear if you played this one back in the day when it came out. If you'd like to support the channel further, do consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member, or leave a one-time donation through a super thanks in chat or Ko-fi. Special shout out to the Boulder Punchers who give extra support to the channel on Patreon or YouTube memberships. For those in the complete global saturation tier, American Boot, Flan Niggle. For those in the thank you for your patronage tier, Tom Terrible. For those in the now this is Boulder punching tier, Ethan, James Warner, Cray, the Madman in Waco, Natu, the original Narcy's Diet Thick Dew TM Neo Edition. For those in the Jill Sandwich tier, On Hell, Benji, Benny Winterdawn, BBF and Bloxburg, Darkrod99, Dragonfang Studios, James Kilgore, Leonard Aronson, Logan Lepin, Mad Morpheus Gaming, Mikkel B, Nico Pero, Sam Jones, Squid Vicious, Strababina, Vinyl Morpheus, Will Han, and Zin. Now for the post-video Q&A, so those in the Jill Sandwich tier and above can ask these questions. One question today from Flan Nagel. Was this your first experience with Turkish horror and did it make you want to dive into it more or stay the heck away? Also, what unrepresented international culture would you like to see in a horror game? I would say, yeah, this is my first foray into Turkish horror. I'm not familiar with movies from the region or horror games. As far as games go, I did play Mountain Blade years back. That is a Turkish game, but it's pretty minimal, so it's hard to say if I dive more into it, but there's not enough. I'd have to look more into it. That would entice me at the moment. Underrepresented international culture. I would like to see more from South America. The Tormented Souls series is from developers in Chile. I'd love to see them lean a bit more into those South American elements, more in Tormented Souls 2. They did to an extent, but could have been cool if they did more. I'd also like to see more incorporation of various mythologies into horror games, whether that's outright building a horror game around mythology or having subtle elements of mythology. You know, think Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Egyptian mythology. That would be Egypt. That would be another one I'd like to see more of at large in horror games. So thank you for the great question, Flan Nagel. Thanks again for everyone for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. You have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you.